but I know every time that you go to
Did
the
your premiums
doctor,
go up?
Oh, definitely they went up. And
So they probably swapped you from one insurance to another.
Oh, and your deductibles went up. The deductibles went up, and I don't know how it's going to be for pills. So you really don't want to get old, because I don't care if you're covered or not. They go along and they give you a maximum that you got to pay $4,000 or $5,000 in the course of the year out of pocket before you won't have to pay anymore.
Right.
Well, if every individual had to pay $4,000 or $5,000 if you had a major problem, you're going to be broke. You're going to be on welfare. You're going to be out on the street, brother.
Or bankrupt.
So, as far as I'm concerned, this Obamacare sucks. This sucks.
It does suck.
And it's only going to get worse, people. Only going to get worse unless they go along, and I hope the Republicans can go along and change the law on something on the Obamacare. And actually, there's they're trying to go along and overturn it in the Supreme Court. And I don't know when that's going to come up, but there's some clause in there that they're trying to overturn. If they do that, then Obamacare would be illegal.
Well, that's good. Actually, though, it brings up a good segue to the VA healthcare system. I mean, everything that I've looked at in regards to Obamacare, that's what it makes me think of. I mean, if we want an example of what a nationalized healthcare plan would look like, look at the Veterans Health Administration.
Oh, I tell you a story about that.
What the hell happened there? And I mean, you know, they give you a line of bullshit. You go to your regular doctor, and your doctor's telling you got an issue, and then you go to the VA because you think your issue is related to something that happened years ago, and they tell you there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. I mean, that sounds like a death panel thing.
Yeah, and it is. And they took, both of them took blood tests. Both of them. And my doctor is telling me, oh, you got to go to a blood doctor. You have to do this. You know, you got this major problem. I go to the VA. They take a blood test. No, there isn't a thing wrong with you. There's nothing. You're healthy. Just go on. We'll see you in 6 months.
Yep.
I said, Jesus Christ. So then I tried to put a claim in to the VA, and it just came back again. Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. Well, I don't want to get into a story of why I put the claim in, but...
Well, we could talk about that later, though. I mean, I don't know. I haven't talked about Fukushima in a long time, but...
Oh, Fukushima.
And that's not, I don't know, Christmas Day. That's not really Christmas conversation. But one of these days
I know, but it's affecting all of us. Stop
I know. Are you actually paying attention to Fukushima?
Yeah.
Finally? Joe, there's not a big deal. Triple meltdown. We saw you the day that it happened. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it freaked us out. So, I don't know.
Well, you know what, though? I feel bad about you guys and about the grandkids.
I don't feel bad about me. I'm already old.
Well, no, you're not. You know, you should have another 40 years ahead of you. At least.
Yeah.
Really. You should. Not me.
Maybe.
I doubt.
Kicking at 100. I could see that happening.
I don't want to be like Bush in a wheelchair and be in a hospital at 90.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to go along and he wants to live forever.
Yeah.
Screw it.
Don't be like Dick Cheney.
As long as if I can move, as long as I can have my health and I can walk and move around, I'm a happy camper. But
have a cocktail.
Yeah, if the situation happens that something happens where I got to go in a wheelchair or I can't walk around anymore, I wouldn't want to live no more.
Well, the sad fact of the matter is we have two things coming in the future, and one is substandard Obama-esque care, and regardless if Obamacare is overturned or not, we still have this situation where there's a large number of Americans without health care, and that is a fact of the matter, right? No one's denying that. So one of the things when I was still doing engineering, one of the big up-and-coming things was telemedicine, and they were pushing that for a lot of the rural communities that didn't have full-time staff down there. Like, I know a couple rural communities around New York. At the hospital, the doctors rotate in and out into the hospitals, so they don't really have permanent staff. So telemedicine was going to help alleviate some of that, where you would have a central doctor, and then you would do remote connections out to all these different hospitals, and they would act as consultants, let's say. They would maybe work in conjunction with a physician's assistant who would go in and do the basic diagnosis and then consult with the doctor. Now they have even better telemedicine tools where they have the robots. I don't know if you saw those. They got them on legs, right? And it's a two-way screen, and it actually can go... Yeah, they're in hospitals, yep. They can go from room to room. The doctor can be sitting in a central location, and the interesting thing about that is that you could have then doctors from all over the world that are tending to patients in hospitals outside of their physical locality. But on the other hand, they are going to need remote access to your physical data. Right now, I remember Paul's grandmother, when she was still alive, she actually thought it was pretty cool that I was into this stuff, because then she had one of the things I talked about where she would actually have to dial in her numbers every day, and they could call her. They had a push button. But in the future they're going to have, we've talked about in Japan, they have toilets already that are taking stool samples and urine samples in the morning when you go. Paul's grandma had it was connected to a modem, and it was a little fingertip oxygen thing, and they would take her blood pressure. She'd have to dial that in. So, they will have, taking your temperature when you sit down. I'm sure that, the toilet seat will be able to detect body temperature or something. But eventually, and anyone who's followed with me, any of this DARPA crazy shit that goes on, eventually, they're going to be internal sensors that'll be taking your bodily statistics.
You don't want that.
No, you don't want that. And I told my daughter many times, if you ever remember anything that your mom told you, don't take the chip, because they've already invented what they said.
Take a shot.
Well, yeah, everybody knows that. There's all these new vaccinations they're putting stuff into. Those virus-like particles, the RNAi. They have all kinds of crazy shit in them now.
I will not have a vaccination. And your mother knows she will not have a vaccination.
Good. No, don't get them. And they push them. Do you see how they push them too? The flu shot is get a shot. Do you know people end up having horrible reactions to that shot? And did you see this year's shot that they had everyone get? Then they came out and said it doesn't work. Yeah,
it doesn't work.
And it makes you wonder. You had everyone go get this, but you didn't quite know what it was going to be yet. Though I saw flu. The Weather Channel has maps for all kinds of different things, and one of them is flu season maps. Except this past year, during the entire summer, the map had flu on it. And I was like, wow, that's messed up. They're getting real-time numbers with all this widespread flu all summer. We don't get flu during the summer. And their excuse for not knowing whether or not a flu vaccine is going to be effective or not is because they got to develop the vaccine so far in the future that they don't know what the prevalent flu is going to be. But wouldn't they have known if we had flu all summer long? And apparently it hasn't let up. I saw there's flu coming up this way. Actually, it's moving up toward New York now. But if they've had flu out all summer, it's not like it just hit in December. So wouldn't they have known already by June that the current formulation for the 2014 vaccine isn't the circulating flu? They would have. Yeah, well, that CDC story just came out a week or two ago.
I just thought something, Jules. How about let's start talking about some UFOs, because that really interests me, no?
Well,
you don't
right
think
now.
that?
It's too early. It's
no,
25 minutes into the show. We'll save it for the end after another cocktail.
Oh, well, whatever you want to do. But I really like
for
talking
me.
about it.
I don't ever talk about it.
Because I really think something happened at one point.
Well, later we'll talk about it. I was
right.
in the middle of... What was I just talking about now?
You were just talking about Obamacare and insurance companies and what they were doing to sensors that...
Oh, DARPA. Yeah. Actually, all right, let me get back to that. So they already introduced, and it was as part of the space program. Remember, I've told you guys, DARPA is the dark side of NASA. Okay, if you pay attention, NASA's the friendly public side, DARPA's the dark side. And for NASA astronauts, DARPA have been working on a technology for little robots that they can inject in your body, that when you're out on a 20-year space mission, if you have something go wrong in your body, there's not going to be surgeons or doctors or anything, so they're going to have to find a way to fix you. So they have these little nanobots that will go in and actually detect, monitor, and detect problems in your DNA and go in and literally correct it. So they've already been working on that, so you better believe that they got something waiting in the wings that at some point, and if they're not already putting it in the vaccines, they probably will. They're probably, GMO food, this new GMO 2.0 we talked about. We looked at Monsanto's and this is the year in review. We looked at Monsanto's 2014 forward-looking statement and their R&D plans for what they were going to do this year. And we read through that whole thing one day on air. And one of the things that came out of that was I was showing you guys how the new Ebola vaccines, which of course then Wall Street came out and said it's a buy. All DARPA funded, by the way, for all the research, and Department of Homeland Security as a part of, somebody's calling in, as a part of trying to... Hold on one second, I'm trying to think, like Pops won't be able to hear you. Hi, who's calling in?
One of the things that...
This is Mike. I'll turn off my radio.
Okay. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I didn't mean to interrupt what you were talking about, DARPA and NASA differentiation. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I don't remember. It's hard for me late at night to keep a train of thought. How you doing? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you and yours and all your family and everybody you know and everybody you love. Blessings to all.
Did you eat well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good. Good. Was it all organic?
No.
Close. Hold on one second.
It was close. Natural raised with no hormones and antibiotics, but it wasn't what they call registered organic.
Oh, well, still, that's good. Mountain fresh.
Kind of. So this nanobot DARPA technology, you saw that clay motion nanobots that they thought they could make movable walls? Who posted that?
Oh, you mean the new one I just posted the other day?
Yes, I read all that stuff down there, and I go to their sources, and I'm like, wow, holy moly. You're just as paranoid as I am about these crazy assholes, these guys there.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I found that late last night, and I was like, oh, look, it's some creepy claymation thing that they've animated. How freaky is that? So I haven't dug into it fully yet, no.
Yeah, I did. I read it, but
well, tell me all about it.
I can't tell you all about it. I just get the scope and understanding how that's going to work with that artificial intelligence. Wow. You know, they are using both of those together. They're going to actually make that little liquid robot T whatever thousand Terminator bastard.
Well, you read some of those about, you drive me the thing about the Turing, that Google document the other day, but Google is working on that big artificial intelligence cortex, the cerebral cortex, right?
What was it called? Google Mind or something like that?
Google something, I don't know, I'd have to look.
Yeah.
I'm sitting back, turn the other direction, so my dad is over here.
Eventually, I can see this divergence. The people that accept that and go transhumanist versus the people that go more towards, the
natural,
balanced. You might even call them crazies if they're following the moon cycles, but hey, whatever.
Well, the one thing I see, Mike, is that here's the disturbing part: the destruction of our environment, the destruction of our health, and all these things that all these assaults on us are causing. The solution is transhumanism. Think about it. To fix all your ills and to make your body able to live in the uninhabitable environment that they're leaving us, go transhumanism. The hunger...
Problem, reaction, solution.
Absolutely.
So they create that, and then we got the Morgellons and people who successfully integrate with this, radio frequency, microwave, whatever, integration of the nano, whatever, with your cells are going to survive, and all the others, sorry, no. That's extreme conspiracy that is only half joking.
Well, and I don't think you would have said it was extreme conspiracy, but I think we found way more than enough proof. They're not keeping it secret. They're not keeping any of this secret. You just need to put on your thinking cap and read and dig. And understand that this isn't fantasy anymore. They're putting out RFPs for this stuff. They're doing testing, and every time one of us steps up, and like I've talked about many times before, and let's tie this back into the VA. These people that are going into the armed services and are getting injured during service, and end up with these new brain-controlled prosthetic arms and things. That's wonderful. Somebody who is a quadriplegic, or I don't even know what you'd call it, but let's say they had all four of their arms and legs blown off from a bomb or whatever, and now they have the legs and they have the arms and they can control them. That's a wonderful thing, but on the other hand, we absolutely know that veterans are guinea pigs. And my father used to say that when he was down in Antarctica, he always thought that they were experimenting on them. And you know what, Pops? They were. That's all admitted now. Not the Antarctic thing, but in general, across the board, for all the military, you guys sign your life away to be test subjects for them.
Yeah, you signed your life away to the military. Didn't matter if it was Army, Navy, Marines, or Air Force. When you signed that paper, they could do whatever they want to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
You put your 4 years in or whatever, you signed for 4 years, your ass is theirs. That's it.
So, the fact that DARPA comes out and they just, have this empathy for brain traumatized vets that, now we're doing this brain research project tying in all of these other large organizations like the National Institute of Health and Google and, I don't know who else is involved. We've listed them all up before. There's lots and lots of different... Johns Hopkins University with that whole baby brain database that they have. They're doing all this research to help these poor brain-damaged vets. Well, yeah, and you know what? It's great. I'm glad that they are. But the fact of the matter is it's to further the transhumanist agenda.
Jules.
What?
They're making RoboCops.
Yes,
They're using these people as experimental platforms, and the machines will learn from the biological components as well as the biological components learn from the machines. And this is a scary scenario, and I do believe that is why all the thinkers from Hawking to Musk are saying that AI could be the downfall of humanity.
And they have. Hawkins and Elon Musk are both very bright.
I think 10 to 15 years, it will be a reality.
Not even. I mean, a lot of it is a reality now. It's just in the laboratory. How many years back, I was still on the original radio network, when I had found that article about the 135 or 220 human-animal hybrid chimeras that they had found growing in labs in the UK. Do you remember that? I mean,
I actually remember that, but I also think it was about the same time frame that Plum Island was going. They just flushed them out to sea, but some of them came back.
Plum Islands, yeah. The Chupacabra, actually, we were just watching those Chupacabra videos the other day when I was doing some playlists, and that one live Chupacabra that they found last year down in Texas near the Mexico border, and they said that they thought it was a raccoon with mange. There was no raccoon with mange.
I one that looked like a dog.
It's a blue dog. They call them blue dogs of Texas, and they're all over from Texas to Louisiana. It's a species they won't even admit. And
when they found this thing,
it's got no hair on it.
Well, when they found this thing, and it looked like this one looked like it had little kangaroo legs, like it looked like a little wallaby, like they have in Australia. But the thing is, they showed it. He looked real friendly, and they actually fed him through the cage and everything. The very next day, the story came out. They took it to the freaking animal shelter, and they had it put to sleep.
They destroyed the evidence.
They said it was suffering, is what they said. And I mean, here's the thing. All these years has been this quest for whether or not the Chupacabra is a real creature, and here they have a living animal. Like all these other films that you've seen, it's always been something dead that they shot that's half decomposed. This was a live creature. You would think that an animal researcher of some kind, some biologist, somebody would have said, hey, let's take this animal, and I mean, who would want the animal to go for research, but let's take a DNA test, or even after they put it to sleep. And they said that they didn't do anything, and there was one story, because when I found the video, I dug into it. In the one story, it literally said that they did not take any DNA for testing. I'm like, all right, that is just absolute, utter bullshit, and it makes me think it's something...
The government is doing
something in a lab that got out. Yep.
Right.
Yep. And that's why they don't, oh no, there is no Chupacabra. No, let's put it to sleep.
Same. I want to see.
Yeah, and we all know that animal control officers have great intellect.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
I'd like to see somebody get. They gotta.
I don't know about that.
I mean, you see so many reports from all over the world.
I don't know about that. Some large hominid living in the Arctic, they would be small. They wouldn't be big.
Well, what about the giants supposedly that came over here? We're going...
Well, that giant thing we've all been watching. That's very interesting, but I don't think now. I mean, maybe Bigfoot. I might believe that there might be some Bigfoots in the woods somewhere. Maybe in the jungles of Peru, maybe.
Well, you know that the giants are pretty well proven. There's pictures from the Smithsonian. There's pictures all over. But what happened is they went out with these expeditions and they confiscated the evidence from the mounds and they destroyed them and they're missing. And that the analogy is, if you will look at the Harrison Ford, movies.
Yeah,
where they stick all that stuff away. Yep. And they do that. Yes, well, it's happened. I mean, there is proof. Look at all the strange skulls and all that. But the best thing they have ever done is hidden the evidence. In Nevada, in Winnemucca, there was one of those long skulls.
Yeah, I've seen
that. And it disappeared. And there was also the San Pedro mummy. A fossilized little short guy about 18 inches tall, who's 50 years old, and a million years old at least. He was 50 years old when he died, but a million years old in rock. And all of that stuff, there's evidence, because X-rays, but all of the real, they just disappeared. All of the real evidence disappeared. There's photographic, there's evidence through writing, but somehow the real things disappeared.
Yeah, Mike.
And there was no evidence of where they went.
You know, Mike, it goes to show you, we don't know everything.
We don't know anything.
And we're just in our infancy of learning, and we're people, even professors and the top knowledgeable people in the world, think they know something. We are in such a vast universe and galaxies that technology, I would believe, would be so much more far advanced that we're just little ants. We don't even know anything yet. And that's...
I agree. I so agree. Because the possibility of life in the universe, because of its multiple billion years, and look at our expansion of technology, and DARPA and NASA are talking about faster than light drives. So Asimov and Niven, all of them talked about that. This is the rate of knowledge that is accumulated in an intelligent society, and we suppose that should have happened. Most people assume that there should be races that have done what we have dreamed of.
And you know what really gets me is because the majority of the people that you talk to say, that I've seen, say, well, no, we're on this planet over here and we're going to go into outer space. I hate to tell them, and I try to tell them, I says, depending, this whole universe was made billions and billions of years ago. There might be thousands and thousands and thousands of planets with thousands of people that are more advanced than we are. And they say, well, why don't you contact us? The reason, you're an ant. You don't have any knowledge yet. And if they did come, then
they ran away already.
Our government.
We're not. You know what? I think I've said this many times before. I think that they've been monitoring us for a long time, and we're on interstellar, like cable television. We're the reality TV show called Earth, and they, use these little ball drone HD camera things to film us, and they're just watching all the wars and the fights and the pestilence because it's fun, and the evil billionaires. It's awesome. I think Earth has probably top rating.
Yeah, if you look at all the videos that you see in
all the honestly, we were sitting here going through some of the stories on Anti-Media, and I was playing Pops some of the videos of the stories from the last few weeks, and they are just unbelievable. I showed him that 76-year-old dude. Did you hear that show when we did that one? The dude that worked for like the car place, and the cop pulled him.
Did the cop pull him over for tags? But he didn't. The cop was too stupid to know what tags were legal.
Right, exactly. I mean,
until the Supreme Court actually has already decided, because that cop is okay, right? Remember that same Supreme Court action the same week. That cop was fine because he was too stupid to know the law, but he was all right and okay to pull him over because his ignorance is excusable because he's a cop.
Actually, you bring up a really good point. I didn't even think about that. That was like the story right after that about the Supreme Court ruling. Yes, cops can now they can now pull you over for a law that you're breaking, even though you may not be breaking any law, if they believe the law to be true and the law is considered to be reasonable. So let's say in this story in particular, the guy had an out tail light, and so they pulled him over, and they saw he was an out-of-state plate, right? So whatever, it was down south. I don't remember what state it was in. And he had an out tail light. And because he had an out tail light, the cop came, and he was writing him a ticket or whatever. And actually, I read another story. They were actually going to let him go. And he started asking them questions, and the two occupants of the car, when he asked them where they were going, they both said different locations, and so he got suspicious. And then he asked them if he could search the car, and they were like, oh, sure, you can search the car. So he didn't have a search warrant, but they gave him permission, and then he found cocaine or heroin. I don't remember which one it was. And so when the guy was going to court, he argued that the law actually stated, I think it was North Carolina or South Carolina, the law actually stated that all...
You only need a stop lamp, not
a
brake light.
stop lamp, right. So it doesn't say you
So
need
you read that whole, reread that whole Supreme Court decision.
I did, actually. I spent a lot of time on that one.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome. But, yeah, and so he was fighting that the cop pulled him over for a law that didn't exist. The cop assumed that he needed 2 taillights, and he said, I only needed 1. The law stays. And so the Supreme Court ruled on it, finally, last week, and they decided that if a cop pulls you over, even if he doesn't understand the law and he understands it incorrectly, as long as his understanding was reasonable and they find something after the fact for a search, it doesn't violate your Fourth Amendment rights because the cop was
reasonable is the term.
Reasonable.
So what is reasonable is ignorance.
Isn't that bullshit? Yeah.
Reasonable is ignorance.
And you don't
so now they're saying because the cop is too goddamn stupid to know the law, it's reasonable for him to pull you over if he suspects you do something wrong. But his suspicion can be based on anything. You might be the wrong color. You might have, some tag on your car. Your wrong design. You thumping, buddy, right? You can see this is a perfect position for them to profile people at any time they want, and the Supreme Court put them there, and now they're able to do it. It's just another ploy.
Well, absolutely, and it opens the door now to anything goes. Yeah. Anything goes.
Anything goes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is police state 3.0.
Well, Ruth, who was the one who dissented? Ruth, no, what's her name? The woman who dissented. I'll have to pull the story up. The one woman on the Supreme Court, she was the one dissenter. It was 8-1 for the vote. And her...
Soetoro.
Was it? No, that wasn't her name. I know the name you're talking about. I can see the way it's spelled.
But it's a female, black, half-black
I'll look
lady.
up her name. But the thing is, her issue was, how is a law-abiding citizen...
Soetoro.
How is a law-abiding citizen supposed to abide by the law if now the law isn't necessarily the law? The law is whatever the cop believes the law to be.
Right.
I mean, that is, I cannot even believe that they put that through. And did you notice, too, there was so much other...
Dredd.
So, yeah, it is
Judge Dredd now.
And there's so much other stuff going on.
Because the cop can decide that, and then they can execute on the spot. Because they feel that they were threatened.
Yeah.
They were threatened, yeah. They're afraid now. The guy had a pen. He was in a freaking wheelchair. And he was brandishing that damn pen.
No, they killed a guy in a wheelchair because he pulled out a pen.
In his wheelchair, yeah. Sorry, he violated the red light rule. He didn't go fast enough across. Sorry, oops, my bad.
No, Mike. I'm gonna tell you something. 25 years ago, cops weren't like this. You could be driving, get messed up. Could have been smoking weed or went
more
along
than 20, 30, 40 years ago.
No, 25. And they would go along and say, what are you doing? If you were drinking or you were smoking, all right, where's your keys? Put them on the floor. Get over on the passenger side. Sit down. Stay there for about an hour and then take off and go home. Today... I
had police drive me home, my friend.
Yeah, you're messed up today. You make one wrong move, or you got one extra drink in you, and they smell the alcohol. You're done, brother.
Well, look in Georgia. I showed this one to Paul. They have like these roadside warrants that they can get. If you refuse to blow a breathalyzer test, they'll get a roadside warrant to drag your ass in. And there was this video, I showed you that the one time. They strapped this guy down in a chair, and it looked like an executioner's chair with 4 or 5 cops, and they were all holding him down, his arms, his legs, his head. They strapped him down, and then they brought in this nurse to forcibly draw blood because he would not take a breathalyzer test. Now, in other states, you don't take a breathalyzer test, you go directly to jail. No, there was one in Wyoming. That one in particular, the video I was talking about, that one was from Georgia, though. But we did see another one. In Wyoming, they put a bag over the guy's head like they were...
Yeah, that one!
That one was brutal.
Oh,
gosh, yeah. That forcible blood draw?
Yeah, talk about
that. My,
I mean, isn't that what Judge Napolitano calls forcible? I mean, that is Fourth Amendment violation. Forcible seizure. That is a forcible seizure. Like, unreasonable search and seizure is what that is. Definitely. You are protected against that. Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, my God.
Could you imagine holding you down and taking your blood? I mean, the way it usually works, you don't blow... You go to jail, that's all. You lose your license, that's all. Hey, when you get a big fat fine, that's all. Isn't that what they're worried about? Like, it's like they've crossed over into this sicko world. You know what I mean? Like the sicko Dr. Zhivago type world.
Well, yeah, now they're going to give them the canine unit. They're going to give them a false positive on your butt, and they're going to search you on the roadside with, public cavity search.
Well, they've done that. Texas roadside.
Yeah, I know.
And the butt clenching in New Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't he undergo like a 14-hour ordeal, that poor guy?
Colonoscopies, or 3 of them. Did they only do 3 of them, or was it 4?
It was 3, 2 or 3, and annual and X-rays. It was
how much money did he get out of that in the end?
I don't remember. It was millions.
Yeah, he won.
Yeah, he did win.
In the end.
Hey, he would have. And he just ran a stop sign at Walmart.
Yeah, it was going to probably not pay for his colon scars.
Yeah.
In the end.
That poor dude's probably traumatized. Yeah, they had him get out of the car, and then the cop noticed him clenching. This was the exact wording. Noticed him clenching his buttocks after he ran a stop sign in the Walmart parking lot.
Well, he probably just had some deli food.
Right, some tacos. New Mexico, man, I'm going to tell you, when I went on my cross-country trip in 93... I wanted to try some hot Mexican food. We went to this restaurant, and let's just say we got stuck there for 2 days.
Oh, no, it was a bad pepper.
Yeah, we got held over in New Mexico.
That's a good term.
It was hot. Yeah, that was a horrible story. That really was a horrible story. But
that's why you've never told it before till now.
No, we did. Remember, we covered all those. They were awful.
Oh yeah, you gave us the nightmares of your friend cross country traveling that one time. That one, I should call her lady, but I might be mistaken.
Oh yeah, you mean my first trip? That whole thing was a nightmare. Everything was a nightmare. Yeah. What's interesting, though, is, like, if you notice now, like, the cop brutality stories are everywhere, because now people are paying attention, but back then nobody was. Like, every time one of those would happen, I would just sit there with my mouth open, and I'd be reading these stories going, what? There have just been so many of them.
The cop brutality has only started happening since the war on drugs was announced. And that militarized the people, or the cops, against the people, which is interesting because the war on drugs has simply increased the value of the drugs that our well-known 322 Brotherhood of Death permanent leaders of this planet are sending to us. This prison industrial complex is a managed system. And they bring it in, they sell it to people, and the weak and then they imprison them and use them as slaves. And it's a sad thing, but it's true.
Well, it is true. So, did you see that story I dropped this morning about the New York City comptroller getting swift and plotting all of the suits against the city on a map and making it public for everybody?
I did not see that.
Yeah,
so there is actually some type, I guess there's going to be a resistance everywhere at some level, like I said.
Well, and the thing is, it's like, I was joking this morning saying the story should have been called Blessed Are the Bean Counters, because despite all the protesting and the rioting and the complaints and, all of the videos that we've seen, nothing has really done anything to make things any better. Now the body cameras, which then they just turn off, or whoops. I saw there was some police department, and I don't remember which one, but they've been doing body and dash cams for quite a number of years, and they have thousands and thousands of videos to release to the public, but they said it's a violation of privacy releasing them the way they are, so they're looking for some good hackers to hire to be able to help them, quote-unquote, edit the video. They're saying to
in other words, they're going to get rid of their guilt, and it's not public because it may violate the privacy, which is a lie. It may violate the lie that they are telling.
Well, exactly. So we'll see. These body cameras aren't going to change anything, but what does make a difference...
Someone's going to hack into them and find their frequency. And where's Anonymous when you need them? They should be able to hack into every one of them goddamn things and post them in real time. Where is this Anonymous? That's an easy thing. So they should be able to do that.
Yeah, well, the one thing that you want, though, is unedited, unadulterated video. I would like that video to be something that we could depend upon. But, once it starts getting into either hackers' or editors' hands, that's not going to fare well. I hate when a video's edited. I want to see it start to finish so I can draw my own conclusions from what I see, not from what someone wants.
I want to see multiple videos of the same situation, because the one video is easily staged.
No, that's very true.
Videos. And so I don't believe that BBC, CNN, CBBS, whatever NBB bullshit. I don't believe it. Because all of that is staged.
Here's the one thing, though. Here's the one thing, though, Mike. A lot of them, though, have been changing their stripes a bit because ratings were down. So I've been noticing a lot more in the way of coverage of police brutality and things of that nature. And, when Pigmine uploads five videos with similar titles from an incident, they're typically from different networks. And I'll tell you what, every clip that I watch, if there's an incident that I'm really interested in, I will watch all 5 clips on the same story. And there's different information in every story.
You're right, I will. If they're different, if they're all from BBC, that one
right.
In Vantage Point, I won't.
Yeah, I need to look at that. You know what? I didn't go back and look at that, but that's messed up. That
Sydney, Australia, whatever. Mm-hmm. You should look at that closely.
I wanted to ask my relatives. We talked to them tonight. Somebody told me that one of their friends down in Australia had never even knew that incident had happened.
Ak is from Australia, and he said he had no idea that it was going on.
Maybe you told me the other night.
He had no idea.
Mm-hmm. So how weird is that?
Covered in there.
Yeah.
Well, that's because it was BBC, and it was for our consumption.
Right. Yeah, I should message my cousin tomorrow and ask her.
You should. But I want to tell you, Jules, I am just a conspiracy theorist and factualist. I look at the possibilities at a completely different angle than the official story. Mm-hmm. And I that's just my nature.
I listen to the official story. I think I explained this to you guys. And then I look for the tells. There's bullshit tells. Like the way they tell the story. Can always tell.
The ISIS, for instance,
They're
they
Daesh
tell
now, remember.
by changing it. They called it from ISIS, ISIL, and Daesh. They have changed the story,
and
what that does is changes the narrative.
Is.
It's right now. Is ISIS, ISIL, Daesh. And so they changed that story, and it fogs the mind of the sheeple.
Yes, it does. Confusion. It's like the cup game with the ball under the cup, and they're just mixing the cups up on the table.
You got it. That's why I listen to your shows and your network and the people that you have here. Honestly,
why? Because we do a good ball game.
No, because you have good players that can watch the ball. I'm part of the crowd.
Well, you're part of the team. You get to share your insight.
That's right.
That's what we were talking about after dinner, was the fact that, the internet really has kind of opened up the ability for us to take a look at the history that was told to us. We didn't know any better before, and when you had, like, Mae Brussels, when people used to send her clips cut out of newspapers from all over the country, that was the only reason, or the only way, really, to be able to do investigation before. You didn't have the internet. And the internet, and all of us being able to connect, is what really has allowed us to not only study as much as you possibly can mentally consume, but then compare notes and start clicking puzzle pieces together. Because, you have puzzle pieces that I don't have, and vice versa.
Well, we both have different interests in research. But this is comparable in the technology change to the Gutenberg press time. I mean, he invented that, and the movable type that could be produced. It really changed society at that time because knowledge was easily dispensable through bills and small letters. And
versus the days.
Reproducible.
Versus like medieval times when you had scribes, they were the only handwritten copies.
So this explosion of knowledge that's available to people that have good souls and are logical. Most of us do not hate. We don't try to take advantage of anybody. And this has been a wonderful, as you say, boon to the average people. It's like a free library. And I'm afraid they're going to shut that down.
Well, I think Hunt earlier tonight posted something into chat. It was called maps.ipviking.com. It was showing all the cyber attacks. Did you see that?
They were coming from China to America.
Yeah. I had Paul actually look. He was freaking out when I showed that to him. He's like, "Oh my God!" He's screaming, "Look at it, we're getting attacked!" And so I said, "Well, find out who that company is. See if you can figure out who they are." And so he found some info on them, and it seems that company set up traps, it says, for hackers out of China, and they got all those IP addresses, so that's how they're able to show the attacks, because they're doing data trapping, like we used to do when we would be trying to gauge a network of whether or not we'd be able to put voice over your network if you had to upgrade, and get bigger pipes and whatever. We would do you'd do an evaluation of the network, so you'd start running pings across the network and look at what the speeds are, and you'd have data traps at the end so you could capture the data. And that's what they did. They set up these traps and put the IP addresses out, so China and all these hacker groups over there think that these are actual companies here, so when they hit them, then they can visualize the traffic. So that's pretty incredible. Did you see that? And it looked like World War III is about going on there in cyberspace.
So I'd make a fake IP for them to attack and hide behind something else.
Right, exactly. And then while they're attacking that,
but I don't know how to do that.
The data. No, I don't either. But, it makes you wonder if that isn't A, some of the crazy stuff that we've all been seeing with the internet lately, and B, like I was saying a couple days ago, they've been setting this up for so long, since just before Janet Napolitano left office, that, attack on the critical infrastructure is coming, and, we had the flame virus and that, and, Iran could be writing viruses to attack our utilities, and oh my God, the power grid, and, at think about it. If they did a mass cyber attack, and regardless if it's them or if it's us, and they hit our infrastructure, and the one story I saw, the guy's like, we're not going to be down for weeks. It's going to be months if we go down. Wouldn't that just be the perfect scenario for them to step in?
That's it.
Martial law.
Martial law, absolutely. Get out of Dodge. You have about 2 days before people start panicking.
That's their problem, the reaction solution. Because they have the solution already there. They have the DHS for 3 billion bullets. They have FEMA camps. They have contracts for all the management of all of these refugees in the area. We have UN agreements. And so all they got to do is just damn pull the trigger anytime they want, right?
They do. They even have, what are they called? SOPs. Standard operating procedures for like civilian internee camps.
Every manual. They got them on highway patrols. They got the Army, the National Guard. Every one of them would have contingency plans for the scenario that they're going to create.
Absolutely. Hold on, I got to grab my beer.
Let me grab your beer. Where is it?
You know what I'm drinking? Actually, my mom split some with me. She decided she likes my weird beer. When she comes here, we did. We split a couple stouts earlier. We had a double chocolate organic stout, which was amazing. There was a little
better. It's better than banana beer.
Oh, the banana beer was awful. It was awful.
No, I mean, at least the chocolate beer will give you a little yummy.
Yeah, it was good. My friend talked me into doing some, when I went this time, he talked me into getting some English stouts. We've been doing all the American craft stuff. So I did. There were a couple manufacturers that I just went down the line, and I got one like little 11.3 ounce metric. Ours is 11.3, and then it's some metric milliliter or whatever.
Damn, that's some
Stout, yes. But I did. I got some chocolate. I got some toffee. So we did. We did the double chocolate. We did a toffee. And then she's like, oh, that was really good. And I mean, they're little. It's only like half a glass each. So I looked, and I had a 22-ouncer in there of one of the American ones. And this one is stout brewed with chocolate and raspberries. It's called the Big Luscious by Founders. And I got to tell you, first couple sips, I was like, ew, raspberry in my beer. But I just poured the last dribble in my glass, and I got to say, it's pretty good.
I've had a raspberry and chocolate brew up here. But the Pacific Northwest is known for its microbrews.
Yes, it is. There's lots of good brews up there.
And they're very reasonable. And I'm glad that they have them because it's kept me from drinking hard liquor.
Oh, well, that's always a good thing.
Well, yeah, I don't want to support the, monster.
No, and it's better for your liver. And I gotta tell you,
my liver's heroic. It's done a really good job. It tests good, but I should not. It's actually my calories.
Oh yeah,
have to be careful. Have to be careful about drinking because the calories are too big, so I can't eat bread or any other high calorie stuff.
Yeah,
but that's just I got to be careful.
But hey, it's Christmas. I did roast beef.
Oh wait, someone's got. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat, and there's a picture of a beer that I've never seen before. It's like Japanese.
Yeah, it looks like Sapporo. Sapporo's different.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear more about your pop's suppositions of exactly what kind of technology is in Antarctica.
Oh yeah, hold on.
Technology.
He just went to go get a refill. He'll be back in a second.
I love that, man. That's wonderful.
Hey, we did good though. We ate lots of food. So, when you eat lots of food and you're drinking just, a cocktail here and a cocktail there, and it goes down easy.
Well, you got to make sure you have enough food to moderate the alcohol.
Absolutely.
Otherwise,
that's a mistake I always make. I don't eat. And then I go down fast and hard. It's done.
Well,
One or two at the max, and I'm done.
I guess it depends on the alcohol content of the whatever I'm drinking, really.
Yeah, these ones tonight were little. They were only like 5. I think this one's a 7, but they weren't that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Sounds
guess
good.
who's back?
Your
Pops. Pops is back. So, Mike,
So I'm
wants to
gonna-
ask you some questions now.
Go ahead, Mike.
I do.
Shoot, brother.
Okay.
Well, let me tell you, Mike, one of the things we were talking about tonight was that nuclear reactor that was down in Antarctica from 62 to 72. I think they decommissioned on the
MP3.
MP3A. It was called.
I did not know that the United States had a nuclear reactor in Antarctica.
No, it was secret. It was secret during that time because we had a treaty with 8 different countries, and there was not supposed to be any nuclear power in there or any arms or armory. And
That's the Antarctica Treaty.
he had the guns.
Right.
He had putting up that atomic reactor, PM3A.
Or any mining either, or any resource, whatever. That was in that same treaty.
Yeah, well, actually, I met A.J. Reynolds with Dr. Von Braun, and we all traveled on the same aircraft going down to the Antarctic. After we landed, I never went along and seen A.J. Reynolds, and I didn't see Dr. Von Braun again either, so I don't know where they shipped them to or what.
Well, here's my idea. I threw this out there tonight. I was telling Pops that I've been thinking about this.
A.J. Reynolds, though, let me get back to
I don't even know who he
They were
is.
going to go along aluminum. He was the head of the aluminum. Reynolds Aluminum.
Oh, so he's like the spaceship guy?
No,
He was going to do the aluminum spaceship.
He
No,
was
well-
aluminum. I don't know if he was going to
I'll tell you what. Why is there an aluminum guy and a space guy coming down to the Antarctic? And here's what I was thinking, Mike. That Mae Brussels episode that we heard where she was talking about the Nazi UFO bases down in Antarctica, and von Braun having been the head of the space program in Germany before we brought them over here, it makes absolute sense that von Braun would go to Antarctica, and then Pop said they picked him up in a helicopter and they never saw him for the rest of the year. He disappeared. And they had been seeing melt marks in the ice of these craft landing and taking off during winter over, and they were these big round melt marks in the ice. And you know what? I think
He
they
even
took...
saw the lights.
You saw the lights too? See, I think they took von Braun to the secret Nazi facility to say, make these things work. But I didn't know about Reynolds, so they got the aluminum guy too. And this was
Supposedly, they were
pre-space
looking to
program.
mine aluminum. That's what the story was for us in Antarctica. But I was in a support team for scientists, for all the scientists. And we had a bunch of scientists, like 40 or 50 scientists. Dr. Von Braun was the head, and all the other ones, we were calling them USARPs, United States Antarctic Research Expedition. That's what they were called, as USARPs. And I'd go into their buildings. It was unbelievable what they had gotten. I was telling Jules, fish that were prehistoric 1 million years ago, and here they didn't know how they were surviving. They caught them. Somehow they bore through the ice. They caught them, and then they had them in their tanks. And that was amazing when we saw all of that.
But I then was saying to him, Antarctica does have volcanoes. And so when...
Mount Erebus.
Yes, Mount Erebus. So when I was thinking about it, my thoughts were there probably was some sort of volcanic vent under the ice that was keeping it nice and toasty warm down there. At one point, they had found palm trees and stuff fossilized and frozen in the ice, so they know it used to be tropical. So as things shifted, maybe this small population of fish became trapped in the warm bubble, you know what I mean? And they stayed there, and then they evolved at a slower rate because there's colder, cooler temperatures, right? And that cooler temperatures are like suspended animation. I mean, that slows down cell processes, and so that's why they found fish still alive that they thought were extinct for 1 million years. I don't know if that makes logical sense.
It makes logical sense. Einstein and Hapgood both agreed that there was this crustal shift where it moved the Chilean area up 10,000 feet and created Lake Titicaca and knocked Pumapunku over, it sunk Atlantis, and it moved Antarctica way from where it was all the way down to the South Pole. This is not rocket science.
But do you know something, Mike? When I was down there with Dr. Von Braun, we never had a man yet on the moon, because I went down there in October 1965. I came off in October 1966, 1 year to the date. And when we were down there wasn't a man that had gone to the moon yet, and they wanted to put a man on the moon. And for some reason, when Dr. Von Braun was down there, they were spotting UFOs coming in through the radar. And we had no aircraft ever built in our lifetime that could go along and be there in the winter months and land and take off and go and get refueled. So this was extraordinary. So that's when they went along and they started investigating. And then when they investigated, they found out that the Van Allen radiation belt across the southern hemisphere, there was the least amount of radiation coming off the Earth. So whenever they travel, because they have to make rockets that are light enough for the propulsion to go along and push them out into space, they couldn't have lead shields going around the aircraft. So they found this reasoning that, hey, look at these UFOs coming in. Well, if they could do it, and they checked, and they says, oh, we don't have now the radiation that's going the rest around the Earth. So then they made a rocket, and that's when the first man went up to the moon.
Well, supposedly. And remember, we were talking about this tonight, too. Radiation was a huge issue because the Russians had made it to orbit, but any of the animals, the primates and the dogs that they tried to send up outside of the atmosphere all burned up horribly, right? But I don't know if that's the full story, to be honest, because those ships that they saw coming in and out, I think those were part of the Nazi space program or whatever they were.
Well, they're still looking at ships. Look at your where the astronauts are now.
In the International Space Station.
Well,
which, by the way, is still within the ionosphere. Go take a look at that in Wikipedia. You know, my friend and I argued this one night, and he insisted that we haven't gone to the moon. I'm like, yeah, we did. He's like, but look, and we haven't been outside of the ionosphere. And if you look, the International Space Station is at like 16 miles or something. I don't remember exactly what the number was, but it was within the ionosphere. It's not outside of the protective magnetic field that we have.
But is there a specific reason for it? Is it to hold it in orbit, and if you go too high, you're just going to float and go? So to hold it in orbit so you don't have to have the jet propulsion to keep holding it there, maybe there's a specific reason for it.
Well, there could be a special orbit for it to stay in geosynchronous,
That's what I think.
Whatever.
There is, okay. The geosynchronous orbit is 26,000 miles.
All right, 26,000, yeah, and it's below 26,000 miles.
Okay, the moon is at 230,000 miles. The sun is at like 9 million miles or something like that, if you're going to measure them like that. But I do believe that all of the radiation and magnetic power changes. It's in flux all the time because we're in the galactic system, where we cross the plane of the ecliptic every 24,000 miles, and we run into space debris. And this is why we have these huge destructions of civilization in a cyclical process, in my opinion.
Yeah. One of the things that I was wondering about is that R.J. Reynolds, what you said that they sent him down for mining? Because first of all, I heard. I thought that Antarctica was international, and it wasn't owned by anyone, so how could someone claim resources? And I mean, wouldn't they be sending, here's another thought, we were talking about this earlier today too, sending people to the moon. Now the moon is pretty much devoid of anything, I thought, as far as minerals and precious resources, but Mars isn't. I mean, they've mapped all of Mars. They know every single element that's on Mars now, as well as these comets and asteroids that we've been landing on. Those are the mining companies, and they want to start mining for precious resources.
My own opinion is that they're a lot more knowledgeable than what we thought they were, and it was after Roswell, as far as Roswell was concerned, I believe they did go along and get a spacecraft.
Well, I think that the Germans, it came out, didn't Hitler have some documentation that they supposedly captured a downed spacecraft? I thought that's where the Nazi space program came from, this whole UFO
and
space
supposedly
program.
The Nazis made this bell that supposedly you could travel into time with.
Yeah, I read something about that too. I never.
Yeah, but supposedly they got those blueprints from Tibet or India.
Oh, from like what, Vimanas?
Yes, that's the basis of the story of Indiana Jones.
Because the actual, they were using liquid mercury is what they.
Well, yes, and they did still. Who knows? But
maybe they were using liquid aluminum in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, R.J. Reynolds aluminum probably, was the origin. But when they learned how to use all these other basic mercury and gold,
I need to look that up. So R.J. Reynolds and Werner von Braun went down together. You never mentioned Reynolds to me, or I didn't know who he was. That's messed up. I'll need to dig into that one.
Yeah, they were both down there, and after we landed in a helicopter, I'll never forget, the plane landed, and then you got off the plane, you took a deep breath, and it was like 50 below, you couldn't get your breath. You said, holy mackerel, Andy, what did I get myself into? And then you put your hands over your face so you can go on and warm up the air that you're breathing, and then next thing you hear, a helo about 2 miles away coming over. And then he comes down, he pushes the snow and lands up on a glacier, and everybody hops in, the door is open, and they're sitting out with their legs hanging over the door and shit, and here we go. And then you go over a little mountain, and
that's it.
That's it, man. That's where you're going to be for the next year? Holy shit, brother. Wow.
Hey, that video I dropped in the chat before about McMurdo Sound and the nuclear reactor, when Pops watched it, he recognized all the stuff in that picture. He's like, oh, that's a blah, 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 and that's a, blah, blah, blah. And then he saw the little church. That was about it.
All of that was there when I was there.
Yeah. Now, you said that you went and partied with the Russians while you guys were there, too.
Oh, yeah, because the Russians would come in, the Australians, the New Zealanders, and we would go over to their places. We were all separated within about a mile from each other, and there were like eight bases. So.
And they were all research, though. There was no military allowed.
Right, and the...
but you guys were military.
Right, the scientists... I don't know if they could speak Russian or whatever, but, you see the scientists, you try to use hand signals because they could... But how did our American scientists get along with them because that's what they were going along and passing information.
And was it a collaborative effort?
Yeah, as far as I could see, it was. Except for PM3A, which that wasn't supposed
no
to be
one
there.
knew that you guys
And
had.
you weren't supposed to have guns down there, but we had them.
That's funny.
Can I give you an analogy? Remember the Christmas Eve cessation of it's called It Was All Quiet on the front between the West and the East in Germany. That it seems appropriate because you actually were living peacefully with your opposition, and now it's Christmas Eve. Maybe we should all just sing Christmas carols with our opposition, right?
Sure. Right, and why can we, at that time, live with the opposition? And it had to have been the Cold War during that time when we were close to... Yeah, it was.
Well, the
we were
Bay of
close
Pigs
to...
almost
Right,
happened.
because I was in a Bay of Pigs, too, where we went down to Cuba. I was in Jacksonville, Florida, and we were supposed to invade Cuba, and that was 1962. So, yeah, when I went down to the Antarctic, that was 65. We were still in a Cold War and shit. And, yeah, everybody were friends. You know, it's probably just like they're on a space station. Let's say...
in space, we have been friends, even though there was that rivalry for who was going to get to the moon and get into space first. We did work with the Russians on rocket technology and things of that nature. I mean, look at us now. Look at the big failures we had. I think those two. Did you see the two American private rockets that blew up? And the one was a Russian rocket for sure. I don't know if the other one was. But I definitely, when I saw that, I was like, oh, those definitely look like sabotage, because in the same week, both India, China, and Russia all had successful launches.
Private rockets,
right,
too. You know,
but we were using Russian
right.
technology.
So now they don't want it.
NASA's been helping, though, on the back end. Elon Musk has been leasing out space from NASA.
They don't want to use the Russian rockets no more.
I saw that. They killed it. And you know what? The embargo actually helped kill all that, because with the embargo against Russia, we can't. But I just saw something. We're not buying those Russian rockets anymore.
Well, that's cool. Well, the person that's going along and trying to put everybody into space, they don't want to pay. You know, they're not going to go along and pay for that shit. Maybe our government would, but they wouldn't. So what do you think about that, Mike?
I got to look at the Mars mission failures. How many missions to Mars have failed? And I wonder.
I don't know. You know, we've been trying since I was young. I remember we tried a few that maybe didn't work out too well. But the stuff that's happening right now with the two rovers, and then all the topographic and the mineral mapping or element mapping has been very successful.
Well, yeah, but I was looking at this, and 80% of the Mars probes have failed.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the link right here. It's failure common among Mars missions timeline. Yeah, and usually it's just a serious failure.
Well, don't they right now have two robots or rovers that are on the planet?
Yeah, there's two rovers. And
yeah.
I think they're both active.
Oh, man, I got like 5 ads and crap when I pulled this up. Holy moly. I'm going to find it, space.com. Anyway, I've got too many ads on it to post it in chat. But the truth is, if you go to NASA and get the history of all of the space flights to Mars, like 80% of them have failed.
Wow. Didn't know.
And
I remember as a kid, I think we used to joke that the Martians were shooting them down.
Well,
You get Barsoom. Remember Barsoom, you know?
What's that?
Barsoom is the name of Mars, according to John Burroughs Rice, or John Rice Burroughs, or whatever. The guy who made that movie. Yeah. Oh, man. The same guy who did Conan, or whatever.
Oh, Conan.
Anyway, they were all space fantasies, or Earth fantasies, or whatever. John Rice Burroughs.
Do you think the Mars reality TV show is gonna happen?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
2020 or 2025? It was.
I really
for.
believe that they're going to get up there somehow and make oxygen.
No, they were saying it's loaded with carbon dioxide. So if they plant lots of vegetation, eventually that'll terraform the planet. And they were thinking about planting just lots of trees to turn all that carbon dioxide into oxygen. But in the meantime, they're going to have airtight, Space 1999 type stuff, Mars bases, and the gravity. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. There's a whole series of science fiction books written, 3 of them. It was called Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars, and the whole story was about terraforming Mars. Terry Brooks. Not Terry Brooks. That's fantasy. I can't remember. But I should post it. Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars. It was all about terraforming.
I think you guys will see it happen in your lifetime.
Not my lifetime. I'm too old. Sorry.
No, you're not. How old are you?
53.
That's not old, Mike.
Oh, come on. Give me a break. I feel old.
Nah, that's not old. Wait till you get around 70. Then you can say.
No, I don't want to wait, man. No way. That's what I'm supposed to think about. Help me, Lord Jesus.
I have a question. Someone in chat posted something. UN Resolution 53 and 107. Germany is enemy state. Antarctic Treaty requires UN members to refrain from military actions in Antarctica. Did Germany have a base down there? Or was that... So they did have a base.
They did have a base.
So,
Queen Maud's land.
So it's very possible then that von Braun, because World War II was long over, how long had we had the German scientists here?
Right after Second World War, I think 46.
Everybody, Australia even had posted land down there.
Yeah, Australia and New Zealand then.
Yeah.
Because it was Russia and the United States took all the scientists. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they had the money to go in there. Yeah, they did.
Right. So those German scientists went to Russia and the United States, who had bases at Antarctica,
right.
And Germany supposedly had their secret UFO base in Antarctica. But I didn't realize that they actually had a base on Antarctica.
Well, look who funded them all.
Base. Now I don't know.
Did you? You never went there?
No. You don't know what they got buried underneath the glacier. You don't know any of that.
Right.
We don't know what they were looking for either, do we?
The what?
We don't know what we were looking for either.
No.
I mean, not back in those days.
Well,
yeah, but they were looking for something, and we will not know what they were looking for.
You were supposed to be support.
Trying to stay warm
for the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And my job was to go along and keep track of all the fuel on the base. That was my job. And to have pumps ready to pump amphibious assault systems for airplanes that would fly in on the glacier. But that was
airplanes that fly into glaciers. Man, you need some super high octane de-icing fluid. You're going to need so much tanks.
They never shut, Mike, they never shut their engines off.
Never. No, they couldn't.
When they
landed, you're going to have to have fuel that's already heated. You're going to have all your fuel in the yeah.
Heat the motors up to get them started.
Yeah.
Use your new
I worked on a farm.
No, that was all your vehicles in the compound ran 24/7. You didn't shut them off.
So did you ship tons of oil there? How did you guys get all that fuel?
In the summertime, there was a bay. The icebreakers break open. They come in with tankers with oil. 200. That was my job. 250,000 gallon barrels of oil that I have, plus 55 gallon drums, just in case of an emergency. We would lose all our 250,000 gallon
what,
tanks.
is it spilled into the bay?
Well, no, for survival,
Right,
because after a certain,
you'd freeze to death.
like, when winter sets in,
Right.
we never had an
Nobody comes in or
aircraft.
out
There
or
was
nothing.
not an aircraft. that
Except
came-
for whatever those things were that were landing and taking off and leaving melt marks in the ice.
Right.
Yeah.
But during that same year when we saw the melting, United States military sent, what was his name? Benkins? I think Benkins. He was the same rate as I was. We were messing around, drinking at somewhere. Somebody went along and fell on top of him, broke his bladder. It was his bladder or it was something, and they didn't want to operate down there, so they send in. Took a 740.
During winter over, right? So it was dark.
747, put special tanks with extra fuel in there, and then flew from Christchurch, New Zealand, down there. Now, what happened was, because storms come up, storm came up, they couldn't land, turned back, weather broke, flew back, come down and land, and that's where in my book, where you see where I'm with 55, half cut 55 gallon drums with a torch to go along. Yeah, we had
And wait, wasn't it winter over? So no one could come in or land or take off. So it was the first time ever that an aircraft had landed during the winter. And Pop said,
747?
Yeah, and Pop said these.
That's a long damn runway to drop down on.
There ain't no runway.
It's an iceberg. He took these drums and he filled them with oil and he torched them all down along the path.
Kerosene.
Yeah, or whatever you had. What were you burning?
Diesel fuel.
Diesel. And he freaking filled them and he torched them and he made like runway lights with these burning barrels.
Oh, shit. So did they have the fuel?
Ever.
Did you have the fuel to fly that out? How did they fly it out?
Mike, I'll tell you how we did the runway. Took 4 big D8. You know what a D8 is?
Cat, yes.
It's a bulldozer.
Yeah, D8 cat.
That's the biggest you could get. 4 of them strung anchor chain, like from what you see in a ship. Strung them across from each one. And these guys were kept driving back and forth over the glacier, so they would give a powder so that when the plane would land, it had skis on it, where the wheels would go down and then the skis would come in, and it was the powder to go along and make the plane come in and for a safe landing. That plane landed. We hit him on a stretcher in a truck, put him into the aircraft. The people that were in the aircraft took him in. I got pictures of him, too. I could show you, Jules.
And do they have special tires for that?
I don't know. That's all I know is that they had skis, special skis with the tires.
Oh, skis. Yeah, okay, there you go.
On the plane. The tires came down first, and then somehow, I don't know how the skis work, and they just turned around and took off again. They weren't even there, I'd say, a half hour. Man, and they were gone.
Did he end up living?
Yeah.
Oh.
They operated on him. He was a black dude.
It was a drinking accident?
Yeah.
Or something.
He was a black dude, and Yeah, he was the first one that ever got evacuated from
from Antarctica.
research expedition.
That's pretty cool.
So don't they use like helicopter ships, ice-breaking helicopter ships that have steps now? I think I read.
Helicopters they used is to pick up people off the other aircrafts, or they would take the scientists in the helicopters and take them like Mount Erebus, the active volcano, or take them. They had different spots they wanted to go to. And you had to watch, because when you were there, there's crevices. I mean, I could tell you some
fall
stories.
Right into there.
Oh, yeah.
Here, right? Even hiking in the Rocky Mountains, though, I was watching, you got to be careful for the crevices. Because you could fall right down into one and no one would ever see you again. And you don't see them. And
these suckers, you fall, it's like snow blowing over a hole. And it blows over, you think, everything looks cool, but there's only like 3-4 inches of snow. You walk in that hole, and if that hole is big enough, you're going down, brother. That's the end of you.
Yeah, I've heard about cats and snowmobiles out there on meteorite searches. They go out looking for meteorites, and every once in a while, a snowmobile or a cat will fall down in the crevice, and someone will die. Oh, oops. Sorry. Our bad.
A cat? Is that what you said? A snowmobile or a cat?
No, the little snow cats.
Oh, yeah, the snow cats.
Yeah, the little ones. Little snow cats, snowmobiles. They do meteorite, the geologists. And they have had failures on them. I follow the geologists out there. I just do.
Now, does anyone follow Antarctica now? Like, if they expanded, I know that there's an observatory down there now, right? And the Near Earth Object Orbiter Satellite telescope is down there.
Now,
I saw that. Tourism.
Yeah.
Tourism. And, one of the things, I mean, honestly, who knows what's down there? Like, the only people who've explored it are the governments, right? So who knows?
There's the Antarctica Treaty, so there is no private. There is no homesteading. People like us, we can't go there. You and I, we cannot go there without government say so.
Well, right, and my friend and I were talking about this the other day, and he's like, oh, well, it's just because it's not explored, you should go down there. And I'm like, it's not like there's hotels down there, and it's freaking cold. I mean, how are you going to get down there? Even if you got permission and came down on a C-130 or something in the belly, or even snuck on a C-130 and came down, what are you going to do when you get there?
Not a fucking...
No, what? Go live in some... shack behind the oil. Yeah,
they're gonna take you around. Maybe
there's not enough penguins down there to feed me. All right.
And
what was that?
There's not enough penguins to feed me.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my god, those penguins were cute though, weren't they?
Go to.
I'm not gonna kill a penguin. Sorry, and herring isn't all that good.
Scott's
I don't know. That had all that crap flown in.
I'll tell you what, Mike, when I was down there, we had Scott's cabin. It was wide open. You walk in there, there was a hanging side of a sheep with the fur still on it. There were cans. And I'm seeing this, and this is history. And here, I'm a young dude. To me, I don't give a shit about that.
Scott's cabin.
Yeah, and that was all history.
Famous. And
if I would have had one of them cans, you know how much money they would have been worth? About $4,000 or $5,000.
How are you going to prove it was a can from Scott's cabin on Antarctica? You watch Pawn Stars. Do you watch Pawn Stars? He's like, where's the documentation on this? You're like, well, I was down there.
Yeah, I'll show him my paperwork, brother.
Yeah. And you know what? They'd find you.
And I wouldn't lie to him. It would be for real.
Yeah.
I'd still rip you off, though.
Yeah, he rips everybody off. Oh, I just saw one where some dude came in with a coin that was, like, elevated, and there's only, like, he said anywhere from 6 to 12 of these in existence in the world. And the dude won it in a poker game, and he wanted $20,000, and Rick says, $20,000? Like, I've seen these go upwards of 100. But they did.
How much did he pay?
He ended up paying like $75. I was surprised. That was more than what I expected. But yeah, he does. He rips
because the guy knew what he had. The guy knew what he had. He had bargaining power. But in the end, you can see that these people know what they have, and if they're desperate enough, they sell it for nothing.
Yeah, I know. I hate when I see desperate people where they have something that you're like, oh, that's probably going to go for $1 million, and Rick's going to get it for $150. I'm like, man, he's such a crook. I bet he's filthy rich.
I can't watch it. I just can't watch it.
I know, that's one of my after-dinner shows because they're short. They're only an hour and fast forward.
My after-dinner show is going on to UCY, looking through all of the news you post, and that's my show.
Oh, well, I've been slow the last couple days. I've had so much stuff.
Well, but there's enough there to dig through. Come on.
I appreciate that somebody actually reads my stuff. Thanks, Mike.
I not only read it, but I actually go through and post the source documents.
Yeah,
so the stuff that introduced, something that intrigues me.
And you have to admit, like, that DARPA stuff is not bullshit, right? Am I wrong?
No, it's not. And it intrigues me. And I read it, and I'm like, holy shit, this is their plan in 20 years.
Yeah.
And they're creating the foundation right now.
They are.
They're getting the technology, they're getting the financing, they're getting all these creative people to make freaking nanobots that'll read your eyeballs just like Minority Report or whatever, and they chase you down.
Yep.
I'm not interested, I don't like that. Sorry.
I don't either. Not at all.
Hey, Mike.
That's why you're here.
You know something, Mike, that with the budget, DARPA gets as much money as it wants. It's unlimited.
Kurzweil said he had an unlimited budget, and Google is working with DARPA on all this stuff.
Unlimited. I can't believe this. So
it's a black... Well, that's where I think a lot of the poppy money goes to. I think it finances a lot of that stuff. Military-industrial makes a lot, all their gun running. I mean, they make lots of black hole money that has to go somewhere, and I think that's where it goes. And was it last year that they were arguing that they shouldn't have to line item the budget for the Department of Defense? I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Oh, we shouldn't have, because a lot of it's national security. Oh, okay.
Right, everything is.
Do you remember how the Department of Defense lost $3 trillion?
Yeah, before 9/11.
Right before 2001. Yeah, 9/11.
I remember seeing that on TV. Before. I called it out to Paul. I'm like, did you just hear what that asshole said? We were sitting out here in this office we used to have the TV out here. I'm like, did you just hear what that asshole said? They lost $2.3 trillion. And
actually, the 740 whatever. Yeah, that airplane just destroyed all the evidence.
No, the airplane, exactly. And I'll tell you what, everybody here was in shock. I mean, my sister lives there, and we couldn't get in touch with anybody. I mean, I had PTSD from that. I think most people.
I actually threw my television out on the patio and watched it break because it was such a liar to me. I couldn't find any truth on it, and I threw it up in the air as far as I could and watched it crash and break, and it busted the tube. And I have not had a television since. Because I understand the programming that is going on. Just saying.
Well, it is. I actually try and point that out to my family. I point that out to my daughter. She gets it. I mean, she understands that, especially, we don't watch a lot of television, an hour, maybe two if it's a weekend and we're going to watch a movie, but that's it in a day. And I really try to limit it, and I point out to her specifically when she was little, I remember she would be able to take a commercial and spew it back at you like every word. Oh, Mom, did you see blah, 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 blah. And I was like, do you understand? You don't need that. They're trying to convince you that you need it. I said, why would you need some, and I try to make her explain to me why she would need it. And then she's like, oh, you're right. I'm like, they're trying to make you want to buy their stuff that you don't need. Right. Get it. So now she gets it. And, but it's not even just, I mean, look at the conditioning and the social programming and, like, these kids shows. I can't stand how they portray children with this just snotty little attitude. It's, disrespectful, and I think that is prevalent. I even see that from interaction in school. I see her bring that home, that attitude. And it's a struggle. Daily. It's
Jules,
a struggle to fight against it. And I have to put a stop to it. You can't let it happen.
Jules, that is the same way of thinking that the Family Guy and Al Bundy have done. That is the programming the mainstream media has created to disrespect the parents.
Mm-hmm. But here's another thing also. Any of the ghettos, and especially I see where I live, this past 10 days, 6 homicides and 4 more shootings. And then you wonder, why is this? You got the police coming in and are having group meetings with the neighborhoods and everything. Bottom line is, just like Jules was saying, the parent wasn't there to go along and be with the kid and say what's right or wrong. So the parents were either partying or they were going out somewhere, and the kid didn't go along and have any authority. So then they get out by themselves, and this is why you see in almost every black neighborhood of the country where crime is so relevant, and they're having all these problems. And I
raised
think
by the television. They're raised by the TV.
Yeah.
They're people that they look up to are on the media. They're not looking at the parents. They're not looking at the family. The man doesn't step up. The woman does not either. And instead, they are glued to that goddamn freaking flickering piece of crap that, excuse me, I just went a little off board.
And when you then figure in the video games, and then you start looking at the violence that's penetrating our entire society right now. It didn't used to be like this. And starting at such a young age, I'll tell you, probably the most disturbing story of 2014 for me was those 2 little girls that are now going to trial with that Slender Man thing. I would have to say. Now, when did shit like that ever happen? And that is this bleeding between reality versus fantasy that has happened with this virtual world that has been created by reality television and realistic video games. It's like taking Chantix, but applying Chantix to the real world and the digital world. You know what I mean? Like that bleeding, because Chantix does that. It caused your awake and your dream state to meld together, so you couldn't remember if what you dreamed was real or if it really happened.
That's the agenda. That is the agenda. They're going to tell us what happens.
Right.
1984. Oceania has always been at war with, whatever, Asia or whatever. They're going to tell us what happened. We don't have any memory of the past. We have no idea of the history of why the political structure exists. Instead, people are always going to be fear programmed and operating on this immediate reaction, problem, reaction, solution. They tell us what that problem is. We have the reaction, which is obvious, easy to predict, fear, and they give us a solution.
Well,
and they have done this my whole life.
Here's one thing I wanted to bring up for the end of the year, and I meant to talk about this on the air today, and I didn't get to it. Is that algae virus. I don't know if any of you guys looked into that, but back a while ago, I don't know, maybe a month or two, there was a story about the stupid virus. Do you remember that? The virus that made you stupid?
It affects your spatial cognizance.
Yes,
the way
I
you
started
relate to the way you relate spatially to the world. Yes, your volume. Yes, I saw that, Jules.
I'm trying to see. I had a whole list of, there were 3 or 4 things, and I thought one of them had to do with the ability to remember events. And I was like, that's interesting. I'm just looking here to see if I could see it really quick. But and another thing that I saw is that this is the first time ever that they've documented that a virus has jumped from a plant-like species to a mammal. Now, tell me again, like all these, we've never seen it before. Like, how many of these have we had over the last 3 or 4 years that it's like, wow, first time ever. Oh my God, it's the worst we've ever. Like, it's just over and over and over again. And I think they're pushing these envelopes. So now we have this virus for the first time ever. It has jumped from an algae that's commonly seen in lakes, and they found it in the throat. They had this control group of 92 people, and like 44% of the people that they swabbed all had this virus that only had ever before been seen in algae in their throats. And they're like, how is that possible? I mean, they didn't know to ever look for it, so maybe we've always had it. Who knows? But
you're right.
Half the people surveyed, and it was only a small survey, but it'd be interesting to do a larger survey, had this virus that had only occurred in algae in their throat.
You're right. They never tested for it before.
It caused a lowering of the IQ. Yes, they had never tested for it before. And that was the argument. And I give them that. But how bizarre is that? They've never seen that before, though. They said normally, I mean, you see cross-species migration where it'll go, like from mice or whatever, we can get the hantavirus and things like that, you know. We can get rabies or whatever. But this had gone from like a zootic, jump in the chain, and it went from like a lower level plant species to a human, and so then they weren't sure either if it was a direct infection or if it was something that we got indirect. And I would have to say, I would almost guess that any of us that live along the Great Lakes probably would have this virus in our throat, because guess what? We all drink lake water, right? Who knows? I mean, are they filtering for that algae? Or that virus in that algae? Probably not.
I would say that it's just another one of these environmental things that are going to affect us because we're all part of the environment. Right. All of our bodies are that. And maybe the imbalance is created because maybe we're fracking or dumping too much BPH or whatever in the water. We're destroying what we have.
We are. That
and
entire
now we are barely discovering what we are doing to ourselves.
Well, right. Maybe we've always had this symbiosis with algae, and we just never knew it. You know what I mean?
We always have had. That's probably what made the sea lions and the dugongs and all the other sea mammals, what are they called, pinnipeds.
Talk about that. What's happening in the world when I was listening to John.
Oh, Stokes?
Yeah.
Pops listens to Stokes.
He was talking about the ecosystem and the way the whales were gone now, the starfish, the sardines.
Are all the same.
Yeah, he's saying, well, if you don't have it, he bought up.
I know he's got cans, but we're out of time. If you can even believe it, we just did 2 hours of radio, guys, and I'm at the last 10 or 15 seconds of the show. So, hey, I'm gonna run this in the morning. So, Merry Christmas, everyone. I'm glad that everyone hung out. This was great doing live radio. I think we'll make this a tradition. All right, Pops, thanks for being here. Mike, thank you so much for calling in. It was awesome.
Nice meeting you, Mike. Hope to see you again.
Good to meet you, Pops. I so love you guys. I so appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Well, we'll try and get Peps more often. He's learning Skype better. So there we go. All right, Mike. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone. Chat, all listeners. We will catch you guys tomorrow.